Hello and welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. Consider the following pairs. We have the battle tanks on one side, the country of origin on the other side. Challenger 2 tanks, Britain. Leclerc tanks, Russia. Leopard 2 tanks, Germany. M1 Abrams tanks, USA. How many pairs given above are correctly matched? The answer to this is only 3 pairs. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to the Leopard 2 tanks. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, yes, Challenger 2 tanks are from Great Britain. Leclerc tanks is not from Russia, but instead it is from France. So remember, Leclerc tanks are from France and it is not from Russia. Leopard 2 tanks, yes, they are from Germany, and M1 Abrams tanks are from United States of America. Why is it in news? That is because Ukraine is now asking Germany for these Leopard 2 tanks. When was Leopard 2 tanks created for the first time? It was back during the 1970s. So during the 1970s, when the Cold War was at its peak, the Leopard 2 was created by Germany. What is this Leopard 2? This happens to be a Germany manufactured main battle tank with a range of about 500 kilometers. Some of the features include main armament, which is about 120 mm to L44 smoothbore gun with 42 rounds, secondary armament with two 7.62 mm machine guns, 16 smoke grenade dischargers, crew of 4, and armor include the composite armor, and the mass is about 55 tons, diesel engine, operational range is about 280 to 340 miles, and maximum speed is about 45 miles per hour. These are some of the features of this particular tank. Why is Ukraine asking for this particular tank? That is because this particular tank is light, and at the same time it has the firepower and the mobility that is required for Ukraine. As of now, most of the tanks that are being used by Ukraine are all Soviet made, and in order to offset Russia's superiority in the artillery power, what Ukraine is asking is for this particular tank. However, Germany has been reluctant to provide these tanks primarily because of the anti-militarism position that it has adopted after the World War II. Now, Ukraine is asking for this particular tank, but Germany has not decided on it, while other NATO members are also asking Germany to give this particular tank. But do note, this particular battle tank is already present in number of other countries. For example, Germany has given license for Poland as well. There are many other countries which are also being used like Canada, and it is also being employed in Afghanistan, Kosovo and Syria. But if Poland has to give this tank to Ukraine, Germany has to give the permission because the origin of this particular tank is from Germany. So only if Germany gives the permission, Poland can also contribute in exporting this particular tank to Ukraine at the time of crisis. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which among the following is the Rabi crops? Bajra, maize, gram, rapeseed, wheat. The answer to this is 3, 4 and 5 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to the Rabi crops. When we speak about the Rabi crops, we have wheat, gram, rapeseed, mustard as well as barley. And when it comes to the kharif crops, what we have is rice, cotton, bajra, maize, jowar and tur. And bajra and maize happen to be kharif crops and they are not Rabi crops, which is why when you look into these options, Bajra and maize are not Rabi crops, but they're Kharif crops. It is 3, 4 and 5. The answer would be C. This article currently goes on to say that climate change has had a major impact on the agricultural pattern. We have the climate change which has introduced massive changes. One, in the form of excessive rainfall. Second, in the form of high temperature. And there is also issues with excess rainfall, no rainfall in couple of regions. And if this continues to happen, this can result in drop in the yield of some of the crops, says this article. But despite all these issues, as of now, policymakers can be in the comfort zone. That is because one, we have enough stockpile of the rice to meet the public distribution, and at the same time, the international wheat prices have also eased considerably. And as a result, what we have is the policymakers who are in the comfort zone right now, says this article. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following is the correct chronological order of the given dynasties? We have Mauryan, Shunga, Nandas and Kushana, Nandas, Mauryan, Shunga and Kushana, Mauryan, Nandas, Kushana and Shunga, Nandas, Mauryan, Kushana and Shunga. The answer to this is Nandas, Mauryan, Shunga and Kushana. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to Mauryan, Shunga, Kushana, Rajput and Mughal eras. So if we have to arrange them in the chronological order, what we first have is the Nanda Empire, followed by the Mauryan Empire. Then what we have is Shunga, and finally what we have is the Kushans. So which is why the answer to this would be B, that is Nandas, followed by Mauryan, followed by Shunga as well as the Kushana. This happens to be the right chronological order of all these dynasties. Now if we have to arrange them in chronological order, first what we have is the Vedic period and arrival of the Aryans. Then what we have is the Mahajanapadas, then the Magadha Empire, then we have the Shishunaga dynasty, then Nanda Empire, followed by a Mauryan Empire, which is a period including Chandragupta, Bindusara and Ashoka. After the Mauryan Empire, what we have is Shunga, followed by Kanva, followed by Satavahanas, followed by Indo-Greek Spartians, then the Sakas and finally the Kushans. After the Kushans, what we have is the Sangam age. The Sangam age includes the Chola, Cheras and the Pandyas, and then what we have is the Gupta Empire, and after the Gupta Empire, what we have is Vardhan dynasty, Mukharis, Hunnas, Pushabhutis, Gaudas, Varman, Maitrakas, followed by Rajput, Senas and Chauhans. If you look into the newspaper article, it makes a reference of all these dynasties, and these can possibly be asked in your preliminary examination as well. Now let's look into the next practice question. The Supreme Court struck down Section 66A of the Information Technology Act 2000 in the case of Buddhadev Karmaska versus the State of West Bengal, Justice K.S. Puttaswamy versus Union of India, S.T. Vambatere versus the Union of India, Shreya Singhal versus the Union of India. The answer to this is Shreya Singhal versus the Union of India. Let us try and understand what is this Section 66A of the IT Act. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to the Shreya Singhal versus the Union of India. So the Supreme Court in the year 2015 struck down Section 66A of the IT Act as being unconstitutional. What is this Section 66A of the IT Act? It speaks about punishment for sending offensive messages through the communication service. Any person who sends by means of a computer source or a communication device any information that is grossly offensive or has menacing character, any information which he knows to be false, but for the purpose of causing annoyance, inconvenience, danger, obstruction, insult, injury, criminal intimidation, enmity, hatred, or ill will, by making use of the computer source or a communication device, any electronic mail or electronic mail message for the purpose of causing annoyance or inconvenience, or deceive or mislead the addressee or recipient about the origin of such messages. To understand what this electronic mail and electronic mail message, it also includes all the information created or transmitted or received through a computer, computer system, computer resource, including attachments in text, image, audio, video, and any other electronic record. So this particular section was struck down by the Supreme Court of India, calling it unconstitutional. Why is it unconstitutional? One, it violates the right to freedom of speech and expression, and at the same time, this cannot be a restriction under the restrictions imposed under 19 of 2. Added to it, in case any executive authority or the judiciary feels that this particular message should not be transmitted, or this information could be a problem if it is transferred in that particular case, they can immediately issue an order, ask the intermediaries to remove or delete this particular information from their platform. But this means that they cannot be arrested, as it would violate the freedom of speech and expression, said the Supreme Court of India in Shreya Singhal versus the Union of India. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which one of the following nonmetals is not a poor conductor of electricity? Sulfur, selenium, bromine, phosphorus. The answer to this is selenium. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2007. So if we speak about selenium, it is a chemical element that is placed in the oxygen group of the periodic table. It is often found in combination with metals like mercury, copper, silver or lead. It is combined with the physical properties of elements like tellurium and sulfur. It's a non-metallic chemical element which is a member of group 16 of the periodic table. So remember, this happens to be a non-metal and it is not poor conductor of electricity, and it has the atomic number which is 34. What are the uses of selenium? It serves as a decolorizer when incorporated in small amounts into the glass. When in large quantity, it imparts to a glass a useful clear red color in signal light. It is also used in preparing red enamels for steel and ceramics and for vulcanization of rubber to increase resistance to abrasion. These are some of the applications of selenium. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is charge sheet. Let us try and understand what is this concept of charge sheet, what is the difference between a charge sheet and an FIR, and what has the Supreme Court given with respect to charge sheet as a public document. First, let's look into the context. The Supreme Court held that the charge sheet is not a public document and allowing it to be accessed freely will violate the Code of the Criminal Procedure 1973 and compromise the rights of the accused, the victim and the investigating agencies. First, what we have to understand is the meaning of charge sheet. What is a charge sheet? A charge sheet is nothing but a final report of the police officer under section 173 of 2 of the CRPC. Let us try and understand the meaning of charge sheet. Let's assume for a moment there is a murder that has occurred in a particular area. So what would happen? A person who's seen this will go to the police station. The person who's seen this particular murder will go to the police station and he will report this particular crime. So the information that is given by a person who sees this particular murder and goes to the police station and gives this information is called as the first information report. So what is the first information report or the FIR? So there is a person who sees this particular heinous offense. He goes to the police station. The police station takes all the information. So the first time this information is given to the police officer, the information is put in the paper. That is what is called as the first information report. Now what is this charge sheet? After filing of the first information report for the cognizable offense. So remember, there are two types of offense. One is a cognizable offense, the other is a non-cognizable offense. What is a cognizable offense? Let's say for example, you have a heinous offense that is committed like rape, murder, where the police officers would be able to arrest that particular person is called as a cognizable offense. In all those cases where they would not be able to arrest that particular person directly without the permission of the magistrate is called as a non-cognizable offense. Where do you see this cognizable and the non-cognizable offense? You have something called as the Schedule A in the CRPC for all the offenses that are present in the Indian Penal Code. For example, it can be dacoity, it can be robbery. For all these offenses in CRPC, you would be able to know whether it is a cognizable offense or a non-cognizable offense. So for all the cognizable offenses where the police would be able to arrest a person, in that case an FIR would be provided. So remember, for non-cognizable offense, what you get is a non-cognizable report, and this is also called as the NCR. But for the cognizable offenses alone, what you get is the FIR. So once an FIR is prepared by the police officers, what would happen? They have to investigate this particular case. Why did this particular person commit this offense? Is it this person who's committed the offense? Who is the accused? Why did he do it? All this information is prepared by the police officers, and ultimately at the end of the investigation a report is given. This report that is given by the police officers to the magistrate at the end of the investigation is what is called as the charge sheet. So what will the police officers do? The police officers will identify the names of the parties, nature of the information, the names of the persons who appear to be acquitted with the circumstances of the case, whether any offense appears to have been committed and if so, by whom, whether the accused has been arrested, whether he has been released on his bond, and if so, whether with or without sureties. all this information is gathered by the police officers, they put this information on a sheet of paper, and this investigation report will be given to the magistrate, to the court of law, is what is called as the charge sheet. So basically, we have the Supreme Court of India in one of the landmark judgments in Veeraswamy versus Union of India and others has clearly gone on to say the charge sheet is nothing but a final report of the police officer under section 173(2) of the CRPC. What is the difference between an FIR and a charge sheet? When we speak about the first information report, it is the information given by a person who's seen that particular crime for the first time. So an FIR is at the start of the incident, but when it comes to the charge sheet, it is the end of the investigating report. So first, what you have is the first information report, and after all the investigation that happens, what you get is the charge sheet. That happens to be the first difference. And the second difference is with respect to the definition. When it comes to the FIR, it is not defined under the CRPC or when it comes to the Indian Penal Code as well. But when it comes to the charge sheet, it has been expressly defined under section 173 of the CRPC. That's the second difference. The third is with respect to the person's guilt. When you look at the FIR, you would not be able to say and conclude it is this person who's committed the crime. It will just give the information about that incident. But when it comes to the charge sheet, it has all the evidences and the proofs as well. So the guilt to a maximum extent can be extracted from the charge sheet. So in FIR, you would not be able to decide on the person's guilt, but in a charge sheet, since it is complete, it has the evidence as well, you would be able to understand whether the person has committed the wrong or not. If in all these cases, after the entire investigation is done, if sufficient information is not gathered, in that case, what would happen? The police will also give what is called as the cancellation report or the untraced report. So if due evidence is not provided, then it is called as cancellation report or the untraced report. So in the present situation, what we have to understand is the Supreme Court has gone on to say that FIR might be a public document, but a charge sheet is not a public document. We have one of the important sections in the Evidence Act which speaks about the public documents. So public documents are the documents which can be given to the public. It can be a legislation, it can be a government rule, so on and so forth. And FIR is a public document, says the Supreme Court of India. But the charge sheet is not a public document and it need not be released in the public forum. Why? Because it becomes a problem for the prosecution as well as for the investigating agencies. So a charge sheet is not a public document, and a certified copy of this charge sheet may also not be given by the police officers or by the court of law to the people, as this is not a public document, says the Supreme Court of India. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this topic. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.